All right, thanks. And once again, welcome to the webinar. I'm Bill McIntosh. Kelly's with us today also. And like I said, we'll help you get started with Google Classroom, and we'll be available for questions probably in about 45 minutes or so. If you have any trouble with the audio, there's some call-in numbers here, but why don't we just kind of jump right in. First off, I like Google Classroom. It is free to use with your students. You can use it in a web browser. You can also use it on any kind of device. So if your students have an iPhone or any kind of phone, a tablet, if they have any of those, they'll just have to download the free apps, but they're completely free, or they can use it in the browser. I recommend using the Chrome browser because it is a Google product and will work best with that one. And Classroom I really like because it's a great way to interact, pass information back and forth with your students, documents, and ideas. So without too much further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go over to a new browser window. So I'm just going to assume we're starting from the beginning. So I've just opened up a fresh browser window. I've opened up Chrome. I'm going to navigate up in the navigation bar to google.com. I'm already here. And then I'm going to go ahead and sign in. So I can sign in the upper right hand. All right, I've already signed in. So it saved my email address. But if not, you have to type your email address. You should use your organization's email address here. If you're with a school and your school subscribes to the Google suite of products, all your students should have Google accounts, and you should use your Google account also so that you can all be in the same classroom. Most schools, in fact, I think all of them, will only let the students join in if you're using your district account. And then it's going to enter my password. If your students or anyone has trouble joining in, you can always use this I, and we can say show password. So my password is password. You know, I mean, I used to work at Stark Industries, like Happy. Sorry if you hadn't seen any of those Iron Man type movies. All right, I'll put in my actual password. And I'm logged into my Google account. The safest thing to do to get to Classroom is to go up to the address bar and just either type in classroom.google.com. If I do that, I know that I'm going to get there and the students will get there. I know some people might say, hey, use these chiclets or these tools over here. Not every district has your Classroom icon in there. It is more convenient if it is, so check, see if it's in there, tell them to use Classroom that way. But I know it's always going to work if I go to classroom.google.com. Now, since I'm assuming we're going to create a class for the first time, you might not have any of these, but this window here, when I jump in, these are all the classes that I'm either teaching, co-teaching, or enrolled in as a student. We'll show you a little later how you can add co-teachers and such, but your screen may be blank when you first jump in because you may not have created or joined any classes yet. To create a new class, though, I come over here on the right upper side and I hit this plus. And the first choice is join a class. That's how I'd get in if I was looking to join, or students will do that, or create class. If for some reason you do not see the create class button, it means you have to contact your school IT department because maybe you're not set up correctly, or maybe they have you in with the student group for some reason. So hopefully you see create class. Then it asks me for some information. The only information I really have to put in here is the class name. And depending on what you teach, you can name it appropriately. I mean, if I was an elementary teacher, maybe I put Mr. Max class, or maybe I'd put something like 3-1, something like that. If you're a secondary teacher, maybe put what you teach. Maybe you put algebra 1. But if you're a secondary teacher, I kind of recommend having a Google Classroom for each class that you teach. So I might even call it like period 2. And the other thing that and later on we will see how you don't have to make the same announcements and assignments and like 5 times if you have 5 classes. There's a way you can kind of make them to all your classes at once. I do prefer to make mine per class. And I also like to put in the year so that I know in future reference that this was the the 2019 to 2020 school year, something like that. All right, now I'm just going to call this a demo class, though. If these are optional, if I don't want to put them in, I don't have to. And before I hit create, I just want to point out one other thing. Take a little note of, if you teach more than one class, notice how some of these backgrounds are different. That's a quick way for me to tell which class I'm going to go ahead and work on later on after I've set them up. So we'll see in a few moments how you can set those backgrounds. All right, but right now I've just finished typing my class name. I'm going to hit the create button. It's going to go ahead and make a fresh class for us. And it got us set up right here. Now that background that I was just talking about, if I want to be able to identify the classes, especially, maybe I'm teaching 4 or 5 of the same classes, I usually like the pictures to be a little different so that I can tell at a glance which class I'm working on, which classes work that I'm checking on or communicating with. And I can do that with this either select theme or the upload photo. If I select theme, there's a few that it has to choose from. It has different categories. There are limited options here, and I'm not sure why they're taking so long to come. So I'll just click on this one. And let's just say maybe it's a math class. I'll choose this theme. I'll select it. And it should go ahead and update for me. Or you can use a personalized picture. So if you grab a picture of your classroom and look. You might also take note of this class code over here. I'm going to make it a little bigger by hitting this display box. So this is one way that students could join into my class later on. I could actually go ahead and highlight and copy this. If I hit Control-C on my keyboard, I can send this out in a remind. I can send it out in an email. I could post it on my web page. However, you might be able to get this information to your students, because I kind of understand they're probably home right now. You're not going to be able to see them in class for a little bit. They could go ahead, log into their Google accounts, and just before, when I saw that plus button, this is the code they'd put in and join your class. There is another way to get students to join your class. We can talk about that a little bit later. But especially if you have a bunch of students, I think this is one of the easiest ways to let them get into your class. You also don't have to worry too much about putting this on your web page, because the only people who can join your class are people that have a school district created account. So it's not like it's out to the general public. Parents can't use their personal email addresses and join into your class. All right, so let's just look at this screen for a few moments. So right now we're kind of in that default screen once we've jumped into Classroom and we've jumped into a class. Let's just get familiar with the interface a little bit. I like to call these 3 dots over here the main menu. I'm just going to click on that for a second. We won't go through it at this time, but this classes does take us back to that first screen where you saw all of my classes, and you can kind of see at a glance some of the classes that I'm teaching or I'm enrolled in. We'll come back to that button a little bit later. Right now, the Stream tab, that's what we're on. This tab acts kind of like a blog. Newest information kind of floats up to the top, but this stream is a little bit more limited in that I can't interact as well with the class. I mean, they can post comments here, they can ask questions here, which you can answer for the whole class, or you can share something with your class. We'll come back and do that in a few seconds. A couple of the other tabs going across are classwork. That's where I spend a lot of my time. We're going to do that shortly. People, we can see the people in our class, co-teachers, students, and the like, grades for when we might grade things if you'd like to in the classroom, and then the settings gear. We'll come back to some of those in a little bit. But right now, we're on the Stream tab. And right here, it says share something with my class. So I'm going to go ahead and actually click on there. And this is more of a one-way communication. I mean, if school is in session, I might remind them, hey, don't forget, there's a spelling test Friday, or, baseball tryouts are next week. But here, you might want to just use this as a message to maybe just touch base with them. Hi, miss you guys. This week, we're going to be working on, watching a couple videos and learning the next whatever you might be teaching. So really, this is mostly just for making sort of announcements to your class. I'll say, welcome to distance learning. I hope to see you again soon or something. Right. I can actually hit this add button, so I can add some other information. I'll click add. You can see I can add anything from my Google Drive, documents, PDF documents, other files, pictures. I could add something to this message. Link would take them out to a website. If I want to link to it, something else. File, if I have something saved on my computer locally or something on a flash drive, I can go ahead and upload that, or I can send them a little YouTube video, which could even be a video of me. Maybe I created the YouTube video and I just want to send them a video message to say hello. And before I kind of talked about having more than one class. So if you are a secondary teacher, you could hit this drop-down menu and you can check off any of the classes that you're either teaching or co-teaching, and this message will get automatically put into those other classes as well. So you don't have to copy and paste or do it 4 or 5 times. And if the message is just for certain students too, right now I just created this class, so I won't have any choices, but if you drop down, you could actually send the message just to particular students in this one class if you'd like to. And if I want to make this message go up immediately, I can hit post. But something to kind of keep an eye on is your students are probably home, so there's a good chance somebody actually might be on the computer either right now or in the next few minutes. So I usually like to hit this drop down and hit the schedule button. So this way, I don't have to worry about people seeing my message right away, and I don't really have to worry about, you know, maybe waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning if that's when I want this message to go up. But let's just say it's for next week. I can hit the drop down and I can set it to go up on Monday morning on the 30th at 8 a.m. If I hit schedule, then this message is now scheduled to post up Monday morning. Anyone who logs on at 8 o'clock in the morning or later will see my welcome message to them. Or if I didn't mind, I could have just hit post right now. The message would be in the stream right now for people to see. You might be wondering though, hey, where is that? The message isn't here. You can kind of see that it's up here. It's saved announcements. I could always hit the drop down menu and I can either delete it or I could click on it and edit the message. So maybe I'll click on it and I could make any changes to it and then resave it for the schedule. This other point that I want to mention here, this is upcoming work. In a few seconds, we're going to see how to create an assignment. So at a glance, you can see any assignments that are due in this class right over here. You can also see them back in that home screen, that first screen we saw with all the little tiles of classes. It'll show you when work is due in those classes as well. And the students have a similar view also. So when they log into their classroom, they can kind of see at a glance what might be due soon. I believe this is within the next 2 weeks. So if you have a longer term project, it might not show up in here until it's closer to the due date. All right, so I like this. Like I said, this is the stream, sort of a blog-like view. As I put things in, they kind of float up to the top. But classwork, this next tab, is really where I do most of the work. So in classwork, I have this create button. And over here, I can do several additional things. I can create an assignment. An assignment is more something that requires some interaction on the student part. Even if it's just something like I say, hey, watch this video, I can send it out to them. It can say, watch this video, and they can watch it, and they have a little button that says mark as done, so that they kind of indicate to you that they did it. So there is some interaction back and forth. They have to kind of acknowledge, hey, you know, I saw this and I watched it. If you just tell them to watch a video, you have really no way of knowing if they did or not, if they were marked as done. But you could ask a couple of questions, and there's a couple of other things that we'll look at in a few minutes that you could do. Just looking down the options that you have on the create button, like I said, assignment is probably the thing you use most of the time. Quiz assignment, much like a regular assignment, it really uses something called Google Forms. It helps you kind of get started and attach a form with an assignment. That's a good way to ask questions that they can give feedback and fill out in a form type, which if it's multiple choice or even short answer, the computer could automatically grade it for you. But I wasn't going to go into quizzes too much unless someone wants to do that at the end. We'll certainly answer questions about that afterwards. But I think if you can get started with assignments, that'll help you go. Questions is just that. You can ask the question. The students get a little prompt to answer a question, usually short answer, but it could be as much as a paragraph or so. Material is information for reference. A lot of times I like to put that up there and the students don't have to acknowledge it. They don't have to do anything. It's just there for them to find. Use post we won't worry about because that's if you had other classes and then you probably wouldn't be in this introductory webinar. Topics I like. Topics help you organize things in this classwork page. So depending on what you're teaching, I mean, if you're an elementary teacher, maybe you'll want to create topics for math and ELA. or you can make things even more granular. You can make things for, reading, writing, and math or so. Topics are just a way to really organize your materials. So, so let's go ahead and actually make a couple of topics. So I'm going to assume that I teach maybe math. So I'm going to do some things on circles. So I'll have a circle topic. And you can create topics now or later. It doesn't matter. I've created one on circles. I'll create another topic for triangles. And the like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit create one more time. And this time I'm actually going to go ahead though and make an assignment. So I've clicked on assignment. I need to give this assignment a title. I'm going to call this, I'll call it area of assignment. So I'm going to give some instructions. I'm going to add a couple of things this time. I'm going to use that add button, show you how that works. So I'm going to say, watch this video and try the practice problems. All right, so in this time, I'm going to hit add so I can add some other resources. I'm going to just add a video from YouTube. And so I clicked on that, and it lets me either search for a YouTube video. If I had one previously that I found, I could just paste the address of it in. That's what URL is going to be for. But I'm just going to look for area of a circle. I'll hit the search. And I've actually seen this one before, so I know this top one is pretty good. It talks about area and relates it to a pizza and such. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. So I just clicked on the one I like. I click add. And now this video is here as a resource for the students. I also wanted them to try the practice problems, though. There's no practice problems in this video. They're just going to watch it. I'm going to hit add again, so I can add more than one thing. And I've set up a couple things in my Google Drive. So I'm going to go to Google Drive. If you didn't put it in your Google Drive, it's okay. If it's something you have on your computer, you could have just uploaded, and upload is even a choice here. But I think one of the things a lot of people I know like to do is put up one of these PDF type documents. And you certainly can do that. If I put up a PDF, students can't really write on it, type on it, or anything like that, but they can still see it. So this is one way. I'll just grab a PDF here of these circle problems, it looks like. So I've just clicked on the one I like. I can search for something up here in my search bar as long as I know what the title of it is and it's in my drive. I'll hit add. So now I have this file as well. And you might notice this little tab here, students can view file. In the case of a PDF, I think that's a good idea because the other choices really aren't going to work on a PDF. But there is one other thing you can do. If you're comfortable with Google Docs or slides or sheets, you can add one of those as well. So I'm going to hit add. I'm going to go back to my drive again. And here I can tell this is a Google Doc because I can tell by these lines this is what a Google Doc looks like. I'm going to go ahead and add this one. And this one, since it's a Google Doc and I kind of made it a worksheet, instead of saying students can view file, I have a little drop down here. I don't really want students to be able to edit my file because then they'll be able to change my worksheet and they'll also all be able to change the same worksheet. They'll all kind of be working on the same one worksheet. So I almost never pick that choice. But make a copy for each student is very nice because it's going to go ahead and make a copy of my worksheet. It's going to put it into their classrooms. It's going to put their name on the top of it. And it's going to have an area where they can actually go into Google Docs and type their answers and then turn that into me later on. So that's the one that I usually prefer to do. So I'm going to hit make a copy for each student on that. And then looking over here on the right, here again is much like we did with the announcement page. It says for which classes. So you're teaching more than one class. I can hit the drop down. I can assign it to more than one class at the same time. So I don't have to copy and paste. You can assign things to just certain students. I can make it worth a certain number of points. Maybe I want to make it just a few points because it's sort of like a homework assignment. I could also make it ungraded. Drop down will let me choose ungraded as a choice if you just want it to be practice for them and see how they're doing. With assignments, though, I really do like to put this due date in. So I like to click on this and we'll just, instead of saying no due date, hit the drop down and I'll say this will, I'm going to assign it Monday. We'll make it due Tuesday, or I can make it due Monday at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock because technically it could be classwork. So whatever time you might want to put in, just be a little bit mindful. If you put something in like 11:59 p.m., Google Classroom, if the students have notifications turned on their phones or their tablet devices, they will get a notification 24 hours before it's due. So I've known people to get a notification, when, hey, why is the teacher email me at 11:59 p.m.? They're not emailing you. It's really just the software letting you know, hey, the assignment's due in 24 hours, and that'll just happen whenever you like. Here's a topic. So I can go ahead and say this is in the circle topic. If I didn't remember to create topics before, the option to create new topics is here, but I will put it in with my circle topics. You have the option to create a rubric or add a rubric if you'd like. Depending on what it is, how you can score that, you can go ahead and create one so that the students know how it'll be graded. And originality reports, Google will actually go out if it's sort of like a writing assignment or maybe a research paper. It'll actually go out on the web and let you know and let them know, hey, it looks like you might have plagiarized some of these things or copied things too much directly from some of the websites that are out there. So if you want to turn that on, that's an option as well. All right, I apologize if I went a little too quickly through these, but for the most part, drop down and click on, and you should be all set. Again, just like before, we have this little assign button. If I hit assign, it goes in right away. If I want to save it for something next week, save my assignments and kind of load them up, maybe work on it on, over the weekend and say, hey, this is what we're going to do Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Just use this drop down in the schedule button. This time I am just going to hit the assign button. It'll go into the stream right now since it's a demo. So in a couple of seconds, that should be all set up. Well, hopefully in a couple of seconds. I'll give it another few seconds, and then I'm going to hit this X because we are sort of in a demo. I'm going to hit the refresh button for me. I'm not sure why that crashed. Hopefully the assignment's in there. It kind of looks like this assignment didn't go in, but that's okay. I have a sample class that has more things in it for you, but the assignment would have been posted here and it would have been posted under the circles category. I like to do topics though, because as the time goes on, students can filter out, or you can just filter out, hey, if I just want to see what's in triangles, just click on triangles over here and I only see the triangle things. If I click on circles, I only see the circle things. Oh, and it does look like it's here. Oh, it is here because I haven't assigned it yet. So I do all topics and then there it is. It showed up as I didn't see that before. Area of circles here, and it should be all set up, ready to go on Monday when I assigned it. Or actually, sorry, it didn't work because I had a problem. Let me try one more time. I won't spend a lot of time on it if it doesn't assign. I'm not sure what the problem is there, but it generally will just assign and be all set. Okay, look, there it is. So it's good. So here it is now. It's in my circle. And I'm all set. As it gets signed out to people, if there were students in my class, it would say it was assigned to however many students that there are. As students turn in their work, they have a turn in button on their end. This will start filling up. I can actually check on their work as they're doing it. After they turn it in, I can do things like grade it and give them feedback. I'll show you that in a class that I might have already set up in a couple of moments. And really, that's the most important thing about Create tab. This Create button, questions, materials, and such are all very, very similar. I'm just going to keep going across the tabs. The People tab. In the People tab, if I was co-teaching, I can go ahead and hit this Person Plus, and I can invite another person from my district to co-teach this class with me. Both people can make assignments. Both people can do grading. Both people can give feedback to the students and the like. Before I kind of said the best, or one of the ways to add students to your class is to give them that class code. This is another way to add students to your class. So if you did want to add students manually, maybe you only have a few students, maybe you're not sure they'll be able to use the class code, you could use this Person Plus here, and you could manually add students to your class. The only catch here is you might have to type their entire Gmail, or not Gmail, their entire school Google account, including the @ and the rest. So I think it tends to make ways for errors to happen. You could misspell someone's name. Maybe they have a 4, like you have J Smith 17. So if you're not sure of that, and so I usually think it's safer to let them use the class code and join themselves. Some districts actually, if you start typing a name in here, it'll actually find in search results. But our district here does not have that turned on. Districts have to turn that on. There's also a few districts that might automatically populate these for you. So if you're in a district where they automatically give you your classes and put your students in for you, you don't have to worry about this portion. All right, just to go a little bit further across, we have grades. This is where assignments, as people turn them in, you'll kind of see a spreadsheet of grades and the like. So just to finish up a couple of other things here, and then I'll show you a class that actually has a few students in it. Maybe I'll just switch over to another class. You might wonder what this gear does for me. While I'm in this gear, it gives me the chance to edit my class details, and it gives me a couple of other options in here. See this class code? This is what my class code was. If for some reason it is a randomly generated code, if you don't like the way it looks, or occasionally you might see something that looks like a word, you could go ahead and hit the drop down and you could actually reset it to something else. For the most part, I just use the one that it selects. You might also notice this next one, students can post and comment in the stream. I usually leave that on because if a student asks a question, there's a good chance other kids have the same question, and then I can go ahead and answer it. Everybody sees it. The only problem is sometimes, one kid will write out hey, and then you'll have 15 heys in your stream because everyone just says hey to each other. So as long as you answer that kind of quickly, you can just say, hey, your name's next to it. It's not really an appropriate use of the stream. This is for questions only. I do like to leave it on, but if you for some reason it becomes a problem, you can change it to only teachers can post a comment and the like. All right, these other ones we can look at if anyone has questions on, but I wouldn't worry about them when I'm starting out. So I'm going to just close out of the class settings for a moment. It takes me back here. And before I kind of skipped over this main menu button, I'm just going to go back over to the left to the main menu for a second, just to show you one or two other things that you can and might want to do in there. So I hit that main menu all the way on the left. I'll do that again. So these three lines, that's the main menu. I can see, it can take me back to the classes screen, a quick shortcut into all the classes that I'm teaching. So this might be a quick way to jump in from class to class, some classes that I might be taking. But I've scrolled all the way down to this settings. So this settings is a little bit different from this other gear. You might think it's similar, but it actually has different settings over here. So in the main menu settings, there's one or two things that you might want to be aware of. Right here, I have email notifications turned on. So anytime any of these events happen, I will get an email. And that can kind of quickly fill up your email box. So you may want to consider turning some of these off. If you don't want to see any of them in email, you could just turn them all off with this top switch. But I don't necessarily want to know when somebody comments on each one of my posts, especially if I have 150 students or so in classes. Same thing with classes that we teach. If students turned in work late, you'll be able to see that anyway. You may not necessarily want to get a email about that, or if they turn something in, you suggest some changes, they resubmit it, you'll get an email on that. So you can go ahead and turn those on and off as you need. There's also a way to turn them off for certain classes. So if I wanted to look down here, I could just have notifications off for particular classes. So maybe there's a class that's pretty needy. I need to leave that one on. You have options, and that's all here in that main menu. Scroll all the way to the bottom, and you'll see settings. All right, I am just going to go back over to my home page of classes, though, because everything that we kind of did before with the plus button and creating class, you just have to do that one time. Once you've done that, every other time you go to classroom.google.com, and you're signed in with your school account, you'll see all the classes that you've either created and are teaching or co-teaching. So right here, this is the demo class that we just made. You can see the background is kind of all set up, and it looks like I chose it to be the same one as this one. You can see at a glance something that's going to be due Tuesdays, my area of a circle. That's the assignment that we had just created. And I'm just going to jump into another class, though, this Intro to Classroom for spring, because this one has a couple students in it. It has these assignments as well. And to show you what it looks like when there's actually some population in there. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this class. I'm in here. Now you can actually see some data in here. This is that same stream and introductory thing. You can see over here in the upcoming, it lets me know what kind of assignments are coming up over the next week or two, I believe. It'll show you all the things you have coming up that are due. Here's this blog-like structure, and you can kind of see how things are from oldest to newest, because I had initially welcomed everyone here, and then I have some material posted. And like I said, the stream is more like a blog, so students can kind of see oldest to newest. but I really like the classwork page a little bit better because here has topics and it's easier to find things. So here I have topics. You can kind of see when I even just have a few things. Here's some reference material. So this is a sort of just a sheet of various formulas that they might need. Here's some problems in the circles unit. So here's my assignments for there. If I had other units, things could be in here as well. So that's why I like to use my topics. I'll click on people one more time over here. So here you can see the students that are enrolled in my class. If you do have comments turned on for everyone, because like I said, I do like to leave my stream comments on. I like students to be able to ask questions. Sometimes it might be as simple as, hey, I couldn't watch the video. Maybe it's because there's something wrong with the video. I like to have that on so they can ask questions. But if someone is a problem, I could just go ahead and turn on one particular student and I can go ahead and mute that one student. So maybe one student abusing the privilege doesn't have to turn it off for everybody. All right, and here's the grades now that I have some assignments and the like. As I fill in scores for people, I can go ahead and fill out these, the grade chart will fill in. But you might be wondering, hey, what does it look like an assignment, like that assignment we made? I think I made the same one, was this area practice. Maybe someone might have done these. So I've clicked on, I clicked on classwork and I've gone over to my circles. I can see that I have assigned this to 3 students. One of them has completed it. I can actually go ahead and as someone has completed an assignment, I can go ahead and see what that looks like. So this person has finished the assignment. I'll click on them. I'll click on their worksheet. This is their worksheet that I made a copy for each student. I'm going to click on that so you can see what that kind of looks like and why I like to use my Google Docs. This will work with Docs. It'll work with slides and sheets, as long as it's a Google and Google Forms, of course. The students will have the opportunity to actually write in your answer. So here's something that asks them to find the area of circles. I actually set up a grid so that they'd have a place to put their answer, and they could go ahead and do this. And I could go ahead and actually either make comments, just like I would in a Google Doc. So here's some comments. I'll say check rounding or something. So I've just made a comment in my Google Doc. I can make this comment and I can, maybe give the student a grade. We'll say that they got a 90. I can add a private comment to the student, say check your rounding, something like that. So that this is just a private student to that one. They can go ahead and see it. And I can actually return this up here in this top bar to the student and with the grade. And I could even tell them, hey, if you fix it, I'll change the grade. But now that person has their score. The next time they check into Classroom, they can see that I've returned this to them. They can make the changes that I suggested and maybe even resubmit it back to me. So it's a good way to kind of have information going back and forth. And if more people had done it, I don't have to keep jumping back and forth. I can go see what the previous student or the next student and such had done. I only had one in here that did this. All right. So and that should be all set with this. And they get their comments and the like. I'm just going to jump back out of this screen. Okay. I'm going to jump back out of this screen. I opened up my my new screen with them, so I'm just going to go back to my previous tab, and now I'm back into the grades and such. I'm going to go back to my class by clicking the title bar. And now if I look over grades, you can kind of see that it's filled in for the people who I've scored. So it kind of fills in. All right, I'm going to check over onto the chat and see if there's been any questions that have been coming up. And like I said, I'll go back to my.
Oh, Bill, we do have some serious questions.
Okay, I'm sorry. I hadn't been. The chat is on my.
No, it's okay. I wanted to save them at the end. There were 3 big ones. There was one related to templates. Okay. Someone wanted to know if you could use a Google Doc, like if there are any Google Doc, I think it was templates. Let me see. They may have to come off their microphone to re-ask that question. I don't know if it was Martha or someone. It's a good question. Or Sarah, I think it was Sarah. Sarah, do you want to unmute your microphone so you can come and ask that question?
Hi. So I was just wondering if there are any pre-made templates that you could use to create an assignment or a test or anything like that.
Uh, the classroom itself doesn't give you any like that. Uh, you can, there's probably something you could find online other people might have used or other
Okay.
people might share with you. What do you teach?
I'm a substitute teacher, so really I could wind up in any grade within the next few years. So,
Oh, okay. Just really almost anything that you might have as a some kind of document, if you have even a Word document or preferably a Google document, if it has any kind of questions or any kind of places like fill in the blank, you could certainly upload those and the students usually figure out pretty quickly how to kind of just type and edit in the document. As a tip, I usually tell them to, highlight your answers in bold or change the color to, a different color so that it's easier for you to see where their answers are. If it's like, just a fill in the blank in the middle of a sentence kind of a worksheet.
mhm.
Google does usually do pretty well with converting things like Word documents and such into its own format so that you could use those if you wanted to.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sure thing.
The second question we had was related to rostering, and I believe that was Mark. Matthew, I
Okay,
might get it
over
wrong.
here on the people tab with getting students into your class we're talking about.
Yes, so I advise, of course, that you can obviously add students. The easiest way is with joining a code, but his question was more geared towards, I guess, using like a school system. I'm not sure which one specifically. I forgot. I'm looking back to the chat for it, but and using that to roster the classes with.
Yeah, so what usually happens there is when your school creates Google accounts for people, it does usually get them out of your school management system. And then it depends on some switches that they turn on in the IT admin department. Like I said, this one doesn't. Like if I wanted to add students manually, I'm just in the people tab. I can type, if I started typing like Jay Smith, well, actually this does come up a little bit, but this might just be because I've used these people. Some populate easier than others. Like I said, the thing that I find works almost all the time is when I go back to my stream, I get my class code. I usually give that to the students and let them join in themselves. They just have to do it one time. If anyone's wondering what it looks like for a student to join in, I have accounts like that too, so we can see what it looks like from the student side. But really, just like we did, I'm just going to go back to my main menu. I'm going to go back to the home screen. Students see a home screen just like we do. They just, the first time, one time only, they hit this plus, they hit join class, and they type your code and they'll get in. Usually I don't have too much trouble with people doing that, even if it's a younger grade, maybe the parents might be able to help them with that.
Yeah, I think Mark's question was more, how do I add class roster from eSchool to Classroom? And I think that one of the things that I think most people have to keep in mind too is sometimes when there's a lot of students who either leave a school or join a school, that information doesn't normally get updated as quickly, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of the times the students would have to join manually. Does that sound right?
It depends on your district. If you're in a district where they'll automatically populate the classrooms for you, there's very few that do that. Then that usually does happen somewhat quickly. I mean, I know when someone comes into one of the districts I work in, it usually takes 24 hours. They kind of get an account first in the district, and then their Google account is made like the next day. So it's almost like within 48 hours they have a Google account and they can join into my class if they're new to my district.
Good. And then Teresa, do you want to, Teresa had a few questions. I don't know if she'd like to speak to them. One was definitely about using different languages, because she has students of varying needs in her classes with different language issues.
Oh, sure thing.
Teresa, do you want to ask that question? Are you still on here?
My question was about if I post a Google Doc, can the students write on it and send it back? So I'm sorry, that wasn't my question.
Oh, I thought you also had one about, that one they definitely could do. Yeah, you could actually have them in Google Classroom. It allows you to make a copy for each student. So you could send out, like, let's say you have a worksheet with a couple of questions on it, a Google Doc that has a couple of questions on it. You could send a copy out to each student, and then they could respond with their own answers to those questions.
Okay.
So there is the capability for that.
Terrific. Thank you.
Sure. And
And then
just to follow up
Go
on
ahead.
that for a second, so I did talk a little bit about, I'm just going to go back into this classroom here for a second because I know there's assignments in here and I think I can look at, you'll view the assignment with circles one. If you do add something as a PDF, and that is one of the easier ways to do it, because you might have documents you found online. I mean, there's no need to reinvent the wheel. You can certainly put those up there. The students can, if they have a printer at home, they can print it out, or they can use it as reference. But if there's any kind of questions and things on there, they can even just copy and paste the questions, and they do have the opportunity as a student to add their own Google Doc. So you can say, hey, copy the questions from the worksheet, paste them into your Google Doc, and attach it. They're usually pretty quick at picking up how to do that, and you don't have to make yourself a Google Doc if you don't have one. It definitely works better with that, like Kelly said, making it into a Google Doc though, because then you can assign one to each student. Students write right on your document itself, and it turns in back and forth paperlessly, and you can even use that when school is actually in session. That might be a good way to use it. I know a lot of teachers that like to use Google Classroom even before we were all out, because it was a great way to keep track of work. They never had to worry about, hey, somebody said, hey, are you sure I didn't turn that in? It's like, well, let's look into Google Classroom. Google Classroom says you didn't. On your end, it says it didn't. There's really no question. It says, obviously you didn't turn it in. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. There was another question that we had, and I know I had one or two people that had raised their hand, so we can get them on also.
Yeah, there's quite a few questions coming in now, so definitely.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, go ahead.
First, I wanted to find out if there was a way that we could create our Google Classrooms as dual language. I'm an E&L instructor, and I work with K through 2. So I would be hoping that I could put the Spanish alongside of the English in case parents are the primary source for students being able to access information. And my second question is there a possibility that BOCES will create a sandbox, so to say, technology-wise, for people who don't have classrooms to be able to work on this, with other people?
Okay, yeah, so we'll start with the first one first. So you were asking if I can maybe put Spanish and English sort of next to each other, or maybe have a parallel class that is written in Spanish. Is that what you're asking me?
So for instance, the page I'm looking at on your desktop right now says reference.
Right.
I would be able to put the word in Spanish right next to it. So I would have reference in English and in Spanish, and then be able to write the translation of perimeter, area, and volume of various shapes right below it. So kind of like they have an English and Spanish option right next to each other.
I don't think Classroom does that by default. I've hit these 3 dots over here, and I can kind of rename this topic a little bit. Instead of reference, I could maybe put in parentheses or slash, and maybe I could write the Spanish name if I knew what that was. But if you do, you could probably write it. I'm trying to think if those Spanish characters will come, like the accent over the A and those kind of things. I forget what those are called. I think
that's easy to do. That's not an issue. I just want to make sure I can do that as far as it will give me space to do that. Okay. I think I see what you're doing, and that answers my question for me.
Okay. Yeah. Same thing with this assignment, my circles problem. Maybe I might edit that, and maybe in the title, I could put in parentheses, or I could put, a slash, and maybe have the Spanish version next to it.
Great.
Oh, sure. No, I'm sorry. I forgot what your second question was. So I know there's a 2-part to yours.
The second part was, is there a possibility of Eastern Suffolk BOCES creating a tech sandbox so that people who don't have classrooms could try out their skills in using Google Classroom?
Yeah, we actually can do that. In fact, the MS 170s, the people that are in my class, when I go to the People tab, these are demo accounts. So I could probably maybe share those with you if you wanted to practice with those. And maybe even, I think that they can even be student accounts. So, I mean, we could probably set up a few of those and make those available to people to play with. That way you can kind of log in as a student and a teacher and see what it looks like. Or if you have, a second computer or a device, you can say, oh, this is what it looks like from the student end. But the students usually do pick it up pretty quickly.
Yeah, I know the students will pick it up quickly. I'm worried about me. Thank you.
Oh, sure thing. And so I'm sorry, we had a couple other questions as well. Did we get to Martha? Was that who I just talked to?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you talked to Martha.
Okay. Let me see if there's anyone else with a hand up or anything here. Um,
Oh, is there, oh, there was one here in the chat box about, I don't know if we got answered from Lisa Marie about, Lisa, did we answer your question? No, I don't know if we did, about using online programs. Oh, she teaches first grade and uses online programs. The directions are read to the students. Is there an option for students to have the directions read to them via audio?
oh, I see what you're saying. Like in the assignment section, maybe have these instructions read out loud to them. I think there are things you can put in your browser or Chrome extensions that'll read to you, because especially for the younger grades, I mean, first grader is probably not going to read what all the instructions are. You either have to rely on the parent probably, or possibly a screen reader. But there are some Google Chrome extensions that can be put on. The parents, since they're at home, would have to install that for them. It's not that hard to do, but most people don't have them by default. So I'm sorry, that might not
Yeah,
be.
it depends on I would say, just to add on to this, that there's probably depends upon the device you're using, right? Because Chromebooks do have built-in accessibility settings that would allow the information on the screen to be read back to whoever's viewing it. So, and extensions too are a big one. So I don't.
Yeah. I mean, if you are teaching those younger grades, that you probably do have to rely on the parents a decent amount to, check the classroom, see what the classwork is, even if it's some, a sheet or something to work on, or to practice, writing letters and such. I mean, the parents probably almost have to help out with that.
And then one of the other things too was related to, I guess we really don't think about this because the only times that I use Google Classroom are with the higher grades. But when we do, the students obviously come into the classroom, they have a one-to-one, it's like a one-to-one device setting, and they join the Google Classroom for that teacher by using the code. But now when you're getting into the fact that we're all learning, distance learning right now and doing remote learning, how does that translate to the younger grades where now you're dealing with kindergarten and other elementary grades, and the parents are now signing on to help those students? Obviously then the parents are joining that class in a sense. Is that accurate to say, or is there, I don't know, is there anything else to add to that? Are there any settings or things we should be aware of with that? I know someone had a question kind of like that.
Yeah, that's a question I get a lot of times for the younger grades is, the parents want to kind of join your class, and they really can't join with their own personal email because it needs to be the school district's email. So they really just kind of have to borrow their child's login information and kind of log in as if it is the child to get in. But yeah, I don't have too much to add to that, other than that's just a common question that comes up. Parents, why can't I log into my child's classroom? I mean, it does actually have something, especially like the older grades. The parents might just want to know, hey, is my child missing any assignments and the like? That actually is possible as well. That's over here on the people tab. You can actually, it's turned off for me. But you could actually add guardian summaries. Some of you on your classroom, in the middle, it'll say, add a parent or guardian email. What that does is it just emails the parents either daily or weekly. The parents kind of choose, and it'll kind of give them a summary of upcoming due assignments. And it won't give them the assignment. It'll just say, hey, the title of the assignment is and due whenever. In this organization, we don't have that turned on. I don't see any of these summaries here. So some of them vary school district by school district. All right. Anything else anyone want to see? Did you want to see what it looked like from the student perspective? Did anyone want me to sign in as a student and you can see what this class looks like from the student view?
I think that'd probably be good to go through. Immersive Reader is just for Microsoft programs, right?
Yeah, that works with the Microsoft programs, but there's probably some similar extensions you put on that'll do some of the same things.
Oh, you mean like doing a Google Chrome extensions, right?
Yes, or like that Capty Voice,
Yeah.
which I don't know if Capty Voice is free or not, but it'll.
I think we have a paid subscription to it, so I'm not sure, but I do remember that. Yeah, there are other ones too. There's there's one that I teach about in my extensions class. I just can't remember what it was right now. Okay, it'll come back to me eventually. Okay.
Yeah, so let me see who we have here. So I graded this one. I'm just going to click on this. I'm going to see who this was. 171. So if I'm going to log in as the student MS171, which is one of our sandbox or practicing with accounts that we use over at the BOCES a lot. So I'm going to sign out of myself to do that. So I'm just going to click on my person here. I'm just going to hit sign out. Now I'm signed out. I'm going to log in. So if I was a student and I was going to go ahead and either get into this class or such, I'm just going to go to google.com. I'll hit the sign in button in the upper right corner. I'm going to use another account. I'll use that MS171 gfe.esboces.org. That's like I said, that's just our account. I'll hit next. I'll sign it with this password. Next. So now I'm in as if I was this student in this class. Like I said, ours here does have it turned on, so I can use these tools and I can find Classroom there. Not every school has that. I know in a couple of schools I work in, that's not there. So I usually just do the safer thing and go to classroom.google.com. And now these are the classes that I'm taking. It looks like I actually had an invite to join a couple of these. If I wasn't already in the class and I had written down my class code, students could hit this plus, they could hit join class. They would just type the class code you provided them and they'd be in your class. We'll assume that I had just done that and had gotten into this class. So I'm going to click on this one. And here's what it looks like for students. I made most of the assignments happen on Monday, so I don't see them yet. They're not actually in my stream. And they're not, actually, I guess I picked the one that had done them. So here, like I said, stream. Some kids like to just click on this because the first screen they see. I think it's a lot more organized to go to classwork. You might notice, and it even says I can track my progress. You might notice the topics over here. If you remember on mine, I had things called ratio and triangles. Since there was nothing in those, it doesn't bother the students with those topics. They only see the ones that are populated at this time. And here I see some upcoming things that I might have already done. But I think I graded one of these. I think I did the practice with circles. So if I click on it, it tells me as a student that was graded. I can actually go ahead and either view the assignment as it was. And this is what it looks like from the student view. So when you make an assignment, this is what it looks like to them. Here's the way it looks. It says, you view the short video, answer the questions, round to the nearest 10th and such. If I had a question or there was a problem with the video, the student can write right in this section and say, hey, Mr. Mack, I couldn't watch the video. Other kids will see that comment that's over here. You can even ask and you can even answer, say, oh, sorry, that video had a problem. I made a new one or the like. This is that PDF document that I had there. It's also in the same place with the video because they really can't do too much with it. They can only kind of look at it and use it as reference. The work, though, that they can do is over here. And so this is the worksheet I assigned to them that they can answer. We'll click on that in a second. But earlier, I kind of talked a little bit about, even if you just make a PDF here that has some questions on it, you can just tell them, hey, make a Google Doc and answer it. Well, they can do that right here with this plus button. If they hit the plus button, it'll make either a Google Doc or slides, whatever you want. It'll make one, it'll attach it to this assignment, and they can just go ahead and turn it into you, and it kind of gets attached automatically. There's no need to share things. There's no need to add email or anything like that. It happens automatically in the Google Classroom. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get off task a little bit. We did grade this when we were in the teacher account, so the student can click on their work. It opens up, and this is how it put the student name. This name just happened to be MS171. It told me what the name of the assignment was, and in here, it even sees the comment from the teacher. And it says, oh, hey, you should check on the rounding of this. Here, let me move this back. We can say, and I can say, oh, yeah, you're right. This should have been 0.3. I rounded off incorrectly. So I fixed it. I can write back, I fixed it. And this actually sends a reply back to the teacher. And I could even mark it as resolved. These are just some Google Docs techniques, but even if they don't mark it as resolved, is the like. And I can, here's the students have this turn it in button. This will resubmit. So if I just hit the turn it in button, now automatically it's gone in and it's been resubmitted to the teacher for further review. And even make sure, do I want to turn in my work? This is going to be in. Yep, I can say yes, I'll turn it in. and you can see it in here. In, even until you grade it and the like, I could say, oh, you know what? I forgot to do something else. I can actually unsubmit it and get it back and work on it again. And here you can see the private comment that we put in when we were the teacher. When I was in the teacher, I made a private comment. It said to check your rounding. Oh, you know, I could say thank you, or I did. Whatever it is, I can write back. I don't have to write back. And I'll hit the send. And now that comment is back in the teacher account, and this person has had worked on that. If I want to go back to the class, and this is a kind of works in the teacher mode too, a quick way to get back to your class. You don't have to hit the back button or anything. You could just hit this this title of your class. It kind of takes you back to the main page of it, and go back to my classwork and see if there was anything else that I might not have done. I think in this account, I think I did do all the work. If you wanted to see what a question looked like, here's what the question looked like. I'll hit view question. And how would you find the area of a circle if you only had the diameter? It has a little place up here for them to answer. Since I haven't even graded this yet, they can edit their answer, and I could change it. You know, and I could go ahead. They have this a quick place to write. It's going to be a quick couple sentences. They can hit turn in, and now they've completed this question assignment. I can also let them see what my classmates look like. We can have a little bit of a discussion thread. You know, what do you think of this or that? And they could kind of even reply to each other. If you like, you can turn that on or off when you assign the question. Hopefully that might have cleared up how it looks on the student end and how it looks when you assign a question or such, and then see it on the see it on the student end and see it back on the teacher end. Did anyone have any other questions or anything? I mean, I'm willing to stay on and answer any questions if you like. And if not, I hope that you found the webinar helpful. Hopefully it helped you get started with Google Classroom. If you have any questions or other things that we might not have covered and you'd rather reach out, you could certainly reach out. Our email is up on the screen there. And like I said, I'm not signing off or anything. If anybody has questions and you want to stay on and ask either in the chat or turn on your mic and ask, we'll be here for a little bit. All right. And again, thank you very much for joining in our webinar. We appreciate it. No, you're welcome. Like I said, hopefully we're here to try and help out. Hopefully we guys got you guys started with Classroom and feel more comfortable using it with your students. And if anyone's interested in the Sandbox account, you want to just let me know. Either send me an email or want to let me know in the chat or anything. That's fine too. I'll try and get you some information on how you can practice with some of the accounts that we have. Yes, I saw Kelly just answered that question. You can add a video in the stream. You can add a YouTube video. You can add a couple of videos. You can certainly do that. You can link to other websites. You can do that in the stream. Those tend to be an announcement, more one-way kind of communication. The students don't have to do anything to acknowledge that they'd seen it. It's mostly there for their information. If you do make it an assignment, they have to kind of hit that marked as done button so that you at least know they saw the assignment and they acknowledge that they saw it and hopefully watch the video or whatever it is for you. So someone has a chat question here. Yes, actually, someone has a couple questions. So we will have more of the classes. Occasionally, we do a part 2 of the class where I was thinking of doing things like a little bit more of the quiz and showing you how to make use the Google Forms to make a quiz. We might do that next week if you want to check back on the webpage Monday or over the weekend. We'll probably have more of a schedule of some of the webinars for next week. And tomorrow we do have just a Q&A only. So it's like an hour-long question and answer on Google Drive, Google Classroom, and really any other Google product you might want to ask about. We'll be doing that tomorrow, I believe, at 11 o'clock. That's on our webpage too. If you want to sign up, we'll send you the link to the webinar, probably about an hour or so before it happens. Again, just like we did today. Can we go through having a PDF and then having students make a Google form to answer questions? Oh, okay, yes. Because you definitely have pre-made worksheets. I see that a lot, especially with math and math worksheets, because a lot of times I've even asked students, if you're comfortable with it, just print it out, work on it on pencil, and you can take a picture of it and send that back to me through the Google Classroom. That they take a picture, they put the picture in Google Drive, and then they can send that back. That way you can even see their work, because it is, math is one of the toughest ones to do on really any of the Google products and such. But so how would I do the PDF one? Sure, I can definitely do that. Let me just go to a class for a second here. Let me just get over to this one. Let me see if this is teaching any classes. This account isn't teaching any classes. So I'm just going to sign out really quick. I'll go back to my account. So I'm just going to sign out of this one. I'll click back in as me. That way we can make an assignment more easily. Let's just use this one we just created today. I'm going to go to classwork because that's where I make assignments. I'm going to hit create. I'm going to make an assignment. I'll call it math practice. Well, it doesn't have to be math practice, but whatever you want to call it. I'm going to hit add. I'll go to my Google Drive because I already put it in my Google Drive. If you don't have your file already in your Drive, it will put it there if you use this file button. So if I use file button, it'll actually search around on my hard drive if I want to select from my computer or drag and drop them. So I'm not sure where my PDF is, so I'm just going to go to from Drive. But you could use upload if it's not in your Drive yet. And I'll just grab that PDF that I had before. I'll just use this one. I'll hit add. And in the directions, I would tell the students, please read the story or whatever it is, and copy the questions into a Google Doc to answer them, something like that. And since it's a PDF, it doesn't really matter what I pick here. View file is probably the best choice for that. So they don't think they can write on it, because they're not going to be able to write on it. And if I go ahead and just assign this right away, on their end, they'll get that screen that we looked at a few seconds ago. Can I still see it? They'll get a screen that looks like this. It'll say the thing, and they'll have the area over here. And one of the choices will be plus, and it'll say plus and create a doc. If you wanted to see how to do that, I could actually log back in as the student and see that. I could do that in a few moments. Did that answer your question? Okay, so let me read a little further. I didn't finish read. I have some pre-made worksheets. Yes, teach third. Is this something they'll be able to do? Yes, third graders definitely can use Google Classroom. I have a lot of the third graders I work with do use it, and they're comfortable with it. So third grade, as long as they have some kind of device, even whatever it might be, I definitely use it with third graders. And sorry, this timed out because I'm not logged into that account anymore. So I'll come back here. Also had another quick question about the if you create a class, can you share it with your colleagues? And the answer to that is yes. Let me just go back to my classroom screen for a second. So I can not only invite people to be co-teachers, so if it's someone who actually co-teaches with me, I go to the People tab, and I can go ahead and add this plus. This will invite teachers to co-teach with me. I can go ahead and type their email address or their school email address in there, and it'll share this class with them. They'll show up in here as a teacher with me. Or you can even go back and if I go back to my home screen here, the classes, I think there's 3 dots here. I can go ahead here and I can go ahead and copy a class. So if I go ahead, this makes an exact copy of everything in my class. Maybe I want to share that with one of my colleagues and say, hey, I set it up. You might want to do the same thing. I can do that. But technically, I'm still the teacher of it because I've copied it. I would really still want to go in and make them a co-teacher. Like when I'm in my class, go to people, go ahead and make someone invite other teachers, make them a co-teacher of it. And I'm not 100% sure if you can take yourself out of being one of the teachers. You can certainly remove people, but I'm not sure if you can remove yourself and just let them become let the class kind of drift into their space. Okay, we have another couple questions here. Is there a converter that I can purchase so that I can use a PDF worksheet I have already, instead of having to copy the questions to Google Doc? Um, Google itself will try and convert PDFs for you. So if it's some kind of English worksheet, if it's something that doesn't have a lot of images on it or pictures on it, those tend to convert very well. And if you want, I can do a quick demo of that. I can show you what that'll look like. Sometimes what I'll even also do is actually on my circles worksheet, what I ended up doing was I actually just copied these from that PDF. I put the circles in and just made my own spaces for people to answer. But if you do want to try the free one with Google, I'm just going to open another tab over here. I'm going to go to Drive. So if I'm in my Google Drive and I go ahead and open up this is that worksheet I was just working with. So notice how it kind of opens as a PDF. This is how it's going to look to the students. I usually get an option to, oh, maybe because I didn't open it in the right place. Let me try it here. I'm pretty sure this is the same one. Okay, so when I didn't use that quick shortcut bar up in Drive, I have more options. So this is where the document actually lives. See how it kind of is open in preview mode? It has a button here. This is open with Google Docs. Google itself is going to go ahead and try and convert that. I'll also give you another tool that is really good at editing PDFs. It's an Adobe product. And you can kind of see what happened with my circle one. It got some of the words, it got some of the questions, but none of the pictures are here. And it really doesn't look that good. So Google didn't do a great job with that. If you did want a different tool, PDFs are made with Adobe. So Adobe Acrobat Pro is a good program that sometimes can get things back out into another format. It itself isn't 100% good at it either. I want to say it works maybe 30% of the time. So it may or may not be worth it, but they do have a subscription for it. I think it's $10 a month, and then you could probably try it out free. So if you want to try the Adobe Acrobat Pro, you just go to the Adobe website. If you sign up for their 7-day trial or whatever the trial is, you can try it out. I mean, if it works for you, that's great. I think it would be worth $10 a month because I'm pretty sure that's what it costs. But if not, at least you tried it out and didn't have to lose a lot of money trying something that may not do what you wanted to. So yes, hopefully I answered that question about PDF, second grade. Yes. And second grade, usually that's kind of like my swing language for Google Classroom. Anyone second grade, you can usually do it by themselves too. I think second graders can get into Classroom, but I definitely understand how it is with the worksheet. I used to teach math, and math is a tough one to do online, especially in Google. And I understand how second grade and the younger grades too. A lot of drawing hand and things can be a lot tougher. And sometimes we can't even assume that all the homes have a printer. There's a lot of people who don't. They just have their tablet device or maybe a computer. Well, sorry. Oh, anyone else? Or hopefully I answered your question. If anyone didn't answer your question completely enough, feel free to either ask again, either unmute your mic, or you want to put it in the chat. If you're not as comfortable with that, that's fine. All right. Well, this recording will be up on our website if anyone wants to see it again. And if any time other questions come up, feel free to always send us an email, or if something comes up when you're trying it out, just jump on to our Q&A session tomorrow. I think it's at 11, and we'll do it again next week, I'm sure. So hopefully we got you guys started and give you some good tips on getting going with your Google Classroom. Hope everyone has a good afternoon and stays healthy and enjoy some of the day.
Have a great day, everyone.
All right. Well, I guess I'll conclude the meeting then. Kel, thanks for your help. Appreciate it.
Oh, you're welcome. You're absolutely welcome. I didn't know if you had any other participants trying to come in either after this. Because if you have a waiting room, it probably would pop up like that, right?
Oh, yes, but I believe I turned off the waiting room after I started going because I knew I wasn't going to be able to
Okay.
get over there too much. And if someone is in the waiting room, I don't catch them quickly enough, they might think it's not working.
Yeah, I don't know if I might have sent an email or two out to some other people, and I'm not sure. Oh boy, there's a lot more too. No, it's not. I don't know which ones you left off at, so.
Oh,
You might have
Yeah.
taken care of all these already.
I mean, I'll check back on the spreadsheet. But all right, maybe I'll turn it off then. It'll stop the recording. And again, thanks for everyone who had attended. And if anyone to the recording will be posted, or like I said, feel free to email us any questions that you might have. We're always happy to answer them. All right, hopefully everyone has a great afternoon. We'll talk to you again soon. So maybe we'll do a part 2 next week.